Hey there folks, welcome to this video, and as F1 was celebrating its 70th birthday, Michael Schumacher was named F1's most influential person in history, beating Bernie Ecclestone in the final 61% to 39%. In this video I want to talk a little bit about that, whether I'd personally consider Schumi the most influential person, and also some of the other people that were in contention in this bracket of, 32? Now, I can understand why Schumi is considered the best. 7 World Championships stands out, but also some other elements to his career that arguably some of his rivals didn't necessarily have. When Schumacher arrived on the scene, he was very much more a professional, more the kind of professional athlete than the professional driver, to say. Many people who've come in since are now the kind of professional athlete way of things. You'd have F1 drivers being more the kind of playboy, or they'd be considered more like a driver than an athlete. Schumacher was constantly training. One of the things that made him seem so much above his competition was the fact that he was constantly doing this kind of training. He was training in, say, the trailers, and that just set him apart. So when he was able to get to the top, he was able to have a lot more endurance compared to his rivals. And that's something that every modern F1 driver has Schumi to thank for. In addition to that, the way that he presented himself was quite strong and commanding. I mean, there are so many stories of how Schumacher remembered everyone's names, their birthdays, and their families, and would talk to people about them. He very much wanted to get to know these people because that's how he felt you get the best out of the team. And every F1 driver has Schumi to thank for this kind of attitude. Every F1 driver at the moment does this kind of regime, this kind of routine. And that's every one of the 20 currently on the grid. Even the ones who people are more critical of, who people say shouldn't be there, they all have the Michael to thank for that. I did a video for Schumacher's 50th birthday, asking whether or not he was still the greatest F1 driver of all time, which I'll put in the description down below for you to watch. In the final, he came up against Bernie Ecclestone, and I would have said that Bernie was the most influential compared to Schumacher, just because of the way that F1 changed and transformed under his time in power. But that's only one measure of how influential someone is. Likewise, Jean Todt, who was in the semi-finals for Team Bosses, losing out against Enzo Ferrari, I would say was probably more influential than Schumacher as well, just because team principal and, of course, FIA Supremo. There are so many different ways in which you can measure who would be the most influential person. I think Schumacher's probably the person who stands out because he is, the 7-time world champion. There are so many different records that he holds, and I think that if people were to be asked to name someone from F1, the majority of people would go with Michael Schumacher. I think Lewis Hamilton would be a close second, and it would very much depend on the era in which these people got into F1. I mean, I'm in that kind of crossfade where I started watching F1 just after Schumacher retired the first time, just as Lewis Hamilton was starting his career. So, to some degree, either of them would be my go-to. But if you're asking me who was more influential, it would be hard for me to come up with an idea. I would consider Michael Schumacher, I'd consider Bernie Ecclestone, I'd consider Jean Todt, I might consider Enzo. Hamilton, Schumacher, Todt, Ecclestone, Sid Watkins, who was in the semi-final for Game Changers, I would consider as well. And maybe as well the likes of Newey and Gordon Murray. If I was to look back further to the past, of course, I'd have to think of someone like Chapman as well. But yeah, the thing is that Schumacher is considered the most influential largely for recognition. He was very much a game changer. But this competition very much ended up being a vote of who was the most recognisable in Formula 1, who had the most presence in Formula 1. And I would say Schumacher undoubtedly has that. The fact that he can still be so praised so far after he retired. Maybe it's because we haven't seen him after retiring, given everything going on, given his accident. But I would say he's the most recognisable person in F1 history. But I wouldn't necessarily say he was the most influential. That said, let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, especially if you didn't agree with me, please hit the like button. Yeah, it really helps me out. And if you'd like to stick around for more motorsports content more generally, as well as F1 content, you can hit the subscribe button if you want to be notified when I'm doing any videos or streams. So for example, time dependent, when that Ferrari announcement could be happening, just hit the bell notification icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.